What if I told you that MIT engineers just proved you can pull unlimited drinking water out of thin air for absolutely $0 in the hottest, driest place in North America? No pipes, no electricity, no wells, just air. And the technology they used? It's been hiding in plain sight for 500 years. While 2.2 billion people on this planet don't have access to safe drinking water, MIT just tested a device in Death Valley that works with zero external energy. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how this works, why it was never taught in schools, and how the physics behind it could solve the global water crisis that the UN says has already pushed us into water bankruptcy. Stay with me, this gets absolutely wild. Let's start with the problem nobody wants to talk about. In September 2025, scientists published something terrifying in Nature Communications. They identified what they call day zero droughts, unprecedented water scarcity events that could hit as early as the 2030s. That's less than a decade away. We're not talking about temporary shortages. We're talking about permanent water bankruptcy. Cities turning on their taps and nothing coming out. Permanently. The Colorado River down to crisis levels. Lake Mead at 30% capacity. You can see the white bathtub ring on the surrounding rocks showing where the water used to be. Mediterranean, Southern Africa, Western United States, all facing what scientists call mega drying. In July 2025, satellites revealed 4 massive mega drying regions across the Northern Hemisphere. These dry areas are expanding at twice the size of California every single year. The UN predicts that by 2040, 40% of humanity will face severe water scarcity. That's 3.2 billion people struggling to find clean drinking water. But here's what nobody expected. The solution was literally floating above our heads the entire time. Earth's atmosphere contains 13 trillion tons of fresh water. 13 trillion tons just hovering above us, invisible, untapped. More water in the air above your head right now than in all the rivers on the entire planet combined. Water evaporates from oceans and lakes, turns into vapor, floats through the atmosphere, and eventually condenses back into rain. It's a cycle that's been happening for billions of years. But what if you could short-circuit that cycle? What if you could grab that water vapor before it ever becomes rain? Professor Xuanhe Zhao and his team at MIT asked themselves that exact question. And in June 2025, they published their answer in Nature Water. They built something that looks deceptively simple, a window-sized panel filled with what appears to be black bubble wrap. But this isn't bubble wrap. This is origami-inspired hydrogel panel. And it's about to change everything we know about water access. Because unlike every other water harvesting system ever invented, this one requires literally zero external energy. Here's how it works, and this is genuinely brilliant. The hydrogel is infused with salts, specifically lithium chloride. Salts are hygroscopic, which means they naturally attract and absorb water molecules from the air. At night, when humidity is at its highest, the hydrogel swells up like a sponge, trapping water vapor from the atmosphere. The origami folds maximize the surface area, meaning more water gets captured. Even in Death Valley, where humidity can drop to 21%, there's still water vapor in the air. The hydrogel captures it, molecule by molecule. Then, when the sun comes up, here's where the magic happens. The sun's heat, no solar panels, no batteries, just direct sunlight, warms the hydrogel. This causes the trapped water to evaporate out of material. But because the hydrogel is sandwiched between 2 glass panels, that evaporated water doesn't escape. It condenses on the cooler glass surface, forming droplets. Those droplets trickle down and get collected at the bottom. Pure, drinkable water from nothing but air and sunlight. The device is completely passive. No moving parts, no electricity, no maintenance. It just works. In their Death Valley tests, this meter-scale device produced between 57 and 161 milliliters per day, up to 2/3 of a cup. Now, that might not sound like much, but this is one panel in the driest place in North America, and it still produced drinkable water every single day for over a week straight. Professor Zhao estimates that a small array of these panels, maybe 10 to 15 units, could supply enough drinking water for an entire household, even in a desert. Scale that up to 50 or 100 panels, you could supply water to an entire village. All of it completely passive, no electricity bills, no maintenance costs. Now, here's where this gets really interesting. This technology isn't new, not even close. The Inca civilization, living on the desert coast of South America 500 years ago, used mesh nets to collect morning dew from the air. They understood atmospheric water harvesting. In parts of Chile and Peru, people still use fog catchers, simple mesh nets that capture water droplets from coastal fog. These systems can collect up to 200 liters per day per net. So why didn't this technology explode into mainstream use? The global bottled water industry is worth $280 billion. Desalination plants, another $20 billion market. For decades, the solution to water scarcity has been massive, centralized infrastructure. Desalination plants costing hundreds of millions to build. Pipeline systems requiring constant maintenance. Systems that require you to stay dependent on them. But a passive device that anyone could theoretically build, that works anywhere, requires no infrastructure, and produces water for free? That's not a product, that's a threat to a $300 billion industry. I'm not saying there's an active conspiracy to suppress this technology, but when MIT researchers had to prove it worked by literally going to Death Valley in 2023, that tells you something about how much institutional support decentralized solutions get. But here's what's changing right now in 2025 and 2026. In January 2026, the United Nations released a report with a term nobody had heard before: water bankruptcy. Not water crisis, not water stress, bankruptcy, meaning we've passed the point of temporary shortages. We're now in permanent deficit. Colorado River agreements based on water levels that no longer exist. Groundwater depletion happening faster than ice sheet melting. Middle East, North Africa, South Asia approaching collapse scenarios. Cities like Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Tehran, built assuming endless water, now facing the reality that those assumptions were catastrophically wrong. And suddenly, atmospheric water generation went from interesting research to billion-dollar industry. In Arizona alone, 6 new AWG companies launched in 2024. Israel's H2OL is running commercial pilots in the Negev desert, producing 200 gallons per day. A company called Source Global has already installed over 450 atmospheric water harvesting systems worldwide. The technology is here, it works, and it's scaling up fast. Right now, atmospheric water costs less than $1 per gallon. That's already cheaper than bottled water. Experts predict costs could drop 50 times lower as the technology scales, potentially reaching pennies per gallon. For reference, desalination costs about 1 cent per liter. But desalination requires massive infrastructure, constant energy input, and only works near coastlines. Meanwhile, MIT's device works literally anywhere: desert, jungle, rooftop. As long as there's air and sunlight, you have water. So what does this actually mean for regular people? Scenario 1. You live in a rural area where wells are running dry. Instead of trucking in water at $100 per delivery every 2 weeks, you set up an array of these panels. No plumbing, no electricity bills, just passive water generation. Hurricane destroys your city's water treatment plant. This happened in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. Instead of waiting for help, these panels start producing drinkable water within 24 hours of deployment. The Moses West Foundation has already deployed AWG units to disaster zones: Puerto Rico, Flint, Michigan, Kabul, Afghanistan. Remote villages in sub-Saharan Africa where women walk 6 hours a day to fetch water. A single array of these panels could eliminate that burden entirely. In May 2025, an organization installed AWG units in Cherbourg, giving clean water access to dozens of children and elders who'd been drinking Coca-Cola because it was cheaper than bottled water. This isn't science fiction. This is happening right now. Here's what you need to understand. MIT engineers proved that atmospheric water harvesting works in the most extreme conditions on Earth. The technology requires zero external energy. The physics are simple, elegant, and replicable. For decades, we've been told that solving water scarcity requires billion-dollar infrastructure projects and dependence on centralized systems. But the real solution might be as simple as a panel of hydrogel, some glass, and the sun. The atmosphere above your head contains more fresh water than all the rivers on Earth combined. We just needed to figure out how to grab it, and now we have. The researchers at MIT are already working on next-generation materials to improve efficiency. Companies are scaling up production. Costs are plummeting. Within 5 years, atmospheric water harvesting could be as common as solar panels. Within 10 years, it could make water scarcity obsolete in many regions. It won't solve everything. Large-scale agriculture will still need traditional water sources. But for drinking water, for households, for off-grid communities, this changes everything. As Professor Zhao said, we've built a meter-scale device that we hope to deploy in resource-limited regions, where even a solar cell is not accessible. Imagine a world where every person, no matter how remote or impoverished their location, has access to clean drinking water. Not because a government provided it, not because a corporation sold it to them, but because the air itself became their water source. Think about what that means. Water becomes completely decentralized. Communities don't need to be located near rivers or coastlines. Drought doesn't mean disaster. Every single human being on this planet could theoretically have access to clean drinking water because they have a device that gives them independence, security, dignity. The future isn't about fighting over rivers. It's not about wars over aquifers. The future is about harvesting the sky. If this video changed how you think about water scarcity, hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to see it. And subscribe because we're diving deep into technologies that could actually change the world. Not incremental improvements, technologies that fundamentally alter the trajectory of human civilization. The next video, we're looking at carbon capture technology that actually works. After that, nuclear fusion developments that might actually achieve net positive energy within 3 years. These aren't fantasies, these are real technologies developed by real scientists with real results. The future isn't dystopia, the future is problem solving. The future is humans being clever and refusing to accept that problems are unsolvable. The future is harvesting water from the sky in the middle of Death Valley. See you in the next one.